Welcome to the channel about news from around the world. While you subscribe and like it, we're going to start.
The United States exports not only iPhones, pop culture and its lauded democracy around the world, but also less marketable products such as rubbish. Not long ago, the British publication The Guardian did a little research and found that the US sends about 1 million tons of plastic trash annually to countries with low labor costs and no government regulation of the environment. The countries that recycle American plastic waste are unable to deal with their own rubbish themselves, so this brotherly help significantly aggravates the environmental situation and affects people's health and overall quality of life. Until 2017, China was seriously helping America by accepting solid volumes of recyclables for recycling. But then China came to its senses and banned the import of any rubbish. Since then, the US has been trying to scatter plastic all over the world and cargo ships laden with this good stuff, applying the seas and oceans in various directions. One of the biggest receivers of US plastic is Malaysia. Surprisingly, the country is prepared to accept hundreds of thousands of tons of waste every year, while it cannot cope with recycling its own. What does this mean? It's simple: nobody recycles this plastic. The rubbish is piled up in landfills and, at best, buried in the ground. Two more American landfills of plastic are Indonesia and Vietnam. The situation there is even more dire. The countries do not know where to dispose of their waste. After China's refusal, Turkey has actively decided to help the USA with its rubbish problem. Previously, the country used to import 159,000 tons of plastic from abroad, but after China's withdrawal the volume has grown to 439,000 tons in just 2 years. Dozens of barges loaded with plastic enter the ports of Istanbul and Adana every month, each carrying at least 2,000 tons of hazardous waste. We should not forget that the US is not the only exporter of waste. The UK, Germany and a number of other European countries also bring their plastic into Turkey. The Chinese waiver has influenced the attitudes of other Asian countries. Already, the Vietnamese, Malaysian and Thai authorities have announced their rejection of rubbish from the US. The US is therefore already forced to look for new partners who are willing to turn their land into a polymer waste dump for money. With each refusal, the US authorities are forced to turn to poorer countries. Today, rubbish has begun to arrive in Cambodia, Laos, Ghana, Ethiopia, Kenya and Senegal. Plastic has to be literally scattered in hiding so as not to outrage the public and environmentalists in the host countries. In 2018, for example, 260 tons of rubbish from the US were unloaded every month at the port of Sihanoukville in Cambodia. Clearly, there was no recycling involved. All that plastic can be seen on the beaches near the city, which are almost entirely covered in it. Journalists at The Guardian reported that in early summer 2019, 187 countries around the world signed an agreement that regulates the export of plastic waste on a global scale. The document mentions, among other things, a ban on importing waste to countries in Asia and Africa ostensibly for recycling. Needless to say, the US did not want to join this dangerous international pact. To understand what exporting plastic for recycling leads to, one has to look into a village near Hanoi in Vietnam. The streets of this locality are simply littered with plastic trash with words in every language of the world. In 2018, at least 83,000 tons of plastic were imported into Vietnam from the US alone. The plastic that does happen to make it to recycling is crushed on old, shabby equipment in horrible conditions. The disgusting smells, heat and toxic fumes kill the people working there. But the people here are happy even to have these jobs, as they and their families do not starve to death. Hundreds of toxic compounds affect the processing workers every minute. They have long stopped drinking water from the local wells and reservoirs, since the constant contact with poisons makes them unfit even for bathing. Hydrochloric acid, sulfur dioxide and heavy metals are only a small part of what this industry enriches the environment with. The local population feels the effects of the cooperation with the Americans, even if it is not directly linked to the recycling of recyclable materials. Several generations of Vietnamese from these areas have suffered from developmental disorders, cancer, asthma and various allergic reactions. While third world countries are suffocating from imported foreign rubbish, the EU is gradually introducing a total ban on plastic.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested, subscribe and leave a comment.